4. We'll get started. And we'll start with the, let me let everybody know that we are being recorded, video as well as audio. We'll say the pledge. We gotta wait a minute. Ready?
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call of directors. I know Director Garcia.
Here.
Director Gibson.
Here.
Director Schomburg.
Here.
Director Nyman is out
In the hospital still.
ill, and Director Kelling is here. And Johnny and Tiffany are here. Okay. Do we need to adjust the agenda any?
I do not believe so.
Is there anything that you saw, Lisa, on adjusting the agenda?
I didn't see
Is there anything we don't need to cover?
I'll be talking about. No, I mean there's.
Pick up there, isn't it?
I just can go through it.
Yeah, we'll just, a lot of this stuff we'll be able to skip through when we get to it.
Okay.
Right.
Any public comments? No? Okay. Manager's report.
I'm gonna defer to Dave, and that, you know, he'll cover it down the road here, but, I've got nothing of normal business to cover,
Oh,
just the
okay.
project stuff.
7 directors on the insurance, 7 employees on the insurance for JPA. They said they had issued the invoice right when the employee left, so the next. Thank you.
Go on to annexation of LOW and FP.
Want to say what time we're at?
Oh, 6:07. Dave.
Okay. Carlos, I think at the last meeting, Carlos told me that he's gotten a copy of his emails from the state that the guys saw. They were going to sign it and get it over to you folks, get the funding agreement. And then he got an email that and a call that the state is about running out of Prop 1 money, and although they're ready to sign the planning grant for you folks, they are focusing all of their rest of their money on Prop 1 money on construction funds. So they're putting all that money that would have gone to any planning projects, and they're shifting it over to fund construction projects. And which means that your application, which has been in there for a year and a half, the funding agreement you're waiting for has been delayed. And so you learned last week, we talked about it with among ourselves about there's stuff in the planning project that you're applied for, and if you remember, back I think in 2016, 17, there was also other planning work that we plucked out of that, and we used some technical assistance money to pay for the hydrogeological study to locate the test wells and the engineer support. Let's get that done. So if the planning agreement is going to be delayed, and they said September, December, then we looked at it, and there's other work that could be done. And we could pull that out and pay for it with self-help technical assistance funds. And that's why I have this little page here.
Yeah.
Do you have any extra?
Yes.
I'm not somewhere. It's for that.
Anyone?
Oh, you want? Oh, you got it, you got it. So it's just all stuff.
Okay, all set?
No, we needed this one too, Dave. Do you have this one or no?
Yeah, here's that.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. It's okay. Anyways, if you read from the top, state of recently decided to use the rest of the money. It's not just your money, it's your project, it's all the planning projects, which frustrates us because we have other planning projects up there. And they're gonna use that for construction. Carlos called and emailed, and he got confirmation that they weren't going to change on that.
Does that mean that we're gonna still be on the top of the list with the same application we got when they do start funding again?
They should. They've completed all their reviews. There's like, they break the application into like 4 parts. They've reviewed, they've signed off on all those. The email that Carlos had forwarded talked about it was from Lawrence, who is our contact person. Here was it March 21st? He said, I saw legal signed off on Monday. It should be issued sometime this month. That was March. Now it's April. Carlos had sent a request. Hey, good morning, Lawrence. I'll be out of the office next week. I'll need to update Dave on the project, continue where we're at on funding of the planning project. When can we expect to have a fully executed agreement? And Lawrence responded, I don't have a solid answer. The last I heard was concern about lack of grant funds. This would mean that we will not be funding planning projects until there are more grant funds available in July. It is hard to know at this stage, but I have been estimating September 2018. So with this current delay, let's say December 2018. So I'm recommending that, and reviewed it with Carlos, there is some pre-construction work that the second page is your application that was sent. This covers all the stuff that was things that we can pull out and do before it needs to be done before you can go to bid with the test well, and it has to be done. So if we can pay for it with another pot of money that we have, and I checked with the state and they said that's a legitimate use of that money. So it can be paid to D to do the design, engineering, help locate the well sites, firm them up with the legal title reports, pay for all that upfront work. We won't pay for the test wells, but it will get that stuff done, in which time we hope that you'll have a funding agreement before or during all this work. So at least it speeds it up or gets you there closer.
And there's no way, go ahead, there's no way to like hopscotch over and say, oh, construction funds, we need to construct the test wells.
It is a planning app. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a planning app. And there's 2 bond measures. Did you want to talk about those, Johnny? But I know there's 2 bond measures.
Yeah, I
coming
just, I printed this out, I looked it up online, so I gave it to you guys just for your information, and it speaks about the 2 bond measures that are coming out, one in June, one in July. State Water Resource Control Board is seeing them as complementary to each other instead of 2 opposing bond measures, so I guess it's gonna be up to the voters whether or not they want to fund it. And if they do, it sounds like we'll move forward, and if they don't, it sounds like we'll have to go to Plan C.
So, yeah. I mean, it's good that there's 2 bond measures. The voters have to pass it.
Yeah.
Pass it.
Another question? If we're doing this, there isn't a way to do the environmental studies. That's definitely not the same as the environmental for the test well. After you define where all the work is going to take place, then you do an environmental study, a full blown. Because we don't have the planning, we don't have that defined well enough.
We need the plans.
Yeah. And we do have and I apologize, Dee, I said, oh, we don't need any environmental. Well, if it's near, the state has a thing that if it's near a water, if it's near a creek or a wetland or something like that, there may be some environmental costs that may have to be in there. So we just budgeted on this. Curtis had given me some. I kept the $15,000 in there for environmental costs that were originally in Dee's budget. And then Curtis, my nice handwriting, give me a C.
Yeah, he got it. So did I.
Those are the numbers that Curtis gave me on updated costs for for that type of work. So we could go in and ask for $82,000 in test well pre-construction costs and get approval on an amended agreement with our agreement with the state for us to provide those services and pay for it out of the money that we have. And then it could start without having to wait for
Yeah, that's great.
How long do you think it'll take to get that approval?
It would probably be a month and a half.
That means, May, we could skip the annexation meeting, board meeting?
I don't know.
Won't be anything going on, right? If you don't have any money. I mean, if there is, it would just be signing something, we'd do it at a regular meeting.
Right. If there is for some reason they came up, I mean, you could contact the folks up there and, personally lobby for, those funds. And we've tried, but it's, it's your project, that's your, you could put a pitch in for those.
I'm gonna try, why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, unless they came through and said, oh, we are gonna, fund it, and we would certainly be on the phone call with you guys before that, for the next.
But other than that, to get the 82,000, you'll have to, get approval to spend the money you guys got, right?
We would just have to, we have a project technical assistance agreement for Fraser Park. We would have to amend it, and it's a matter of we have the numbers from, the engineer, Dee and Curtis, put that in our amendment and get approval by the state, and that takes about a month and a half.
Are you able to get reimbursed if we end up getting the funding?
Well, actually, and we have, Self-Help has received Prop 1 money to pay for our time, but they've also given us a pot of money to pay for engineering, environmental work, some of the upfront pre-costs. Not enough for test wells.
You don't have $15 million sitting around for the construction project?
No, but there's a chunk of money that we can pay up for upfront work, preliminary reports, other.
Well, that would be nice, because at least keep us working.
Yeah, and I did check with the lady we have to run this by, and she checked with the folks, and they said, yes, it's an eligible cost.
Oh, good.
And I know Curtis did emailed, I saw the email, and that's where I wrote the numbers down from. He has the costs have gone up for that phase of the work, to $523,500, but we'll to around $445 or close to that number anyways with the state. So this will actually help your pre-application by getting that work done earlier and such. But it's basically preparation for licenses to drill, which is an agreement with the property owner to.
Yeah.
So how would that work, Dee, as far as the license for the?
Well, normally we'll prepare a license agreement that says, we're gonna pay you so much money to allow us to come on your property and drill test well, but we agree on a price if we decide that we want the site. In that agreement, in that license agreement, is an agreed upon price for the site if we do decide, after drilling the test well, to buy that piece of property, to buy that test well site, which would probably be, up here probably 100 by 100 or 150 by 150, something like that, feet. Quarter acre, maybe something like that, maybe half an acre. But, we keep the sites pretty small, don't need that much room for our wells, but anyway, we put all that in agreement, we have an appraisal, and so then, if we come to an agreement, then we know, that landowner gets $10,000 for allowing us to come on site, tear up the site as much as we do, which isn't very much, and drill the test well, get the results, put the site back together, and then if we decide that that is a good site for a well, then we go ahead and agree that when we get the funding for the project, we'll go ahead and purchase that site for an agreed upon price for, say, 5 years. You know, the price would be good for 5 years or so.
Lisa?
Don't we need to worry about distance to other stuff, you know, because of septic and all that? So, I mean, you're saying a fairly small footprint, but couldn't it be a much larger footprint if we're too close to?
We would have to, you know, locate the site away from septic systems, and then part of the test well project is to determine if there would be any interference with those. So part of the test pumping would be measuring for contaminants like.
I think it's like 150 feet now, right? Offset from a septic?
Yeah, we get away from
Yeah.
it. So that's part of the site selection process.
Do you ever do, say, like, with the good side would be the lower yard for Ace Hardware? Do you ever do something where you just do a much smaller area and have, you know, a permanent easement right away to go through the property? Because we already got that. We got our line going from well 5 right up their road right through that same area. So
Yeah, as long as we can, the big thing is, you know, being able to get in, pull the pump,
yeah,
you know, drill it, of course. You might even need a bigger site to drill. And then, you know, then the permanent site, you might get an easement and then a permanent site. And then the site will be as small as we can make it and still get into it, pull the pump, and service the well, service the equipment.
perfect.
So, you know, we don't like to take too much, but at the same time, we have to make sure that we've got enough to lay the pump out and service it. So, and, let's see, no, that's, yeah. None of these sites where, none of these sites are gonna have additional tankage on them. You know, according to our feasibility
Yeah.
report, we will have different sites for booster pumping. So we don't have that to worry about.
And none of what you're looking at is county property or anything, right? I mean, along the
Well,
road
you know,
bed
we're
there?
looking at, based on the geophysical study that we did and the recommendations that Ken Schmidt made, you know, we're looking for wells in certain areas,
'Cause
within certain, you know, 300 or 400 feet of what looks to be like a good area.
If I remember
because
right
there's
from
some
that
of that's still
study,
county, right?
well, I think some of the most likely places would be like over there behind Anthony's Towing, kind of near like Lions Daycare,
Right.
or right in Ace Hardware's lower lot, places like that. So that would
So
be
basically on
private.
the other side of the creek.
Behind Anthony's Towing, it's, I believe, Groundbreakers owns that. They dump concrete and stuff back there, so they might be amenable to some type of an agreement.
One of the things that we look at is we do a phase one and have a phase one done on the property to make sure that phase one just looks at, you know, has the site ever been used for disposal of, you know, trash or garbage or whatever, or has it been used for any, does it have, you know, any history of possible chemical contamination, like
Yeah.
was it a service station? You know, would there be a leaky tank there? Something like that, fertilizer, you know, a distribution facility or something. So we always, you know, look at that before we select sites, or before we anchor them. So that's part of it too. So, you know, gotta look pretty carefully, and we don't wanna drill a test well in place a nuclear power plant used to be or something, but.
The only place I could think of in Fraser Park that would still be county would probably be over there below the fire station by West End, where there's that big, there's like a makeshift dirt bike track. But I don't even know if
That's
looks-
too shallow when
and-
we were looking at
Okay,
that.
yeah,
I
so-
think, if I remember. From
So other than that, I think that's the only county-owned property that
Yeah,
intersects.
because the rest of the county owns on this side of the creek bed.
Yeah, I mean, and really even a lot of that is
And we have one.
bought up because we own 2 sections of that,
Right,
and Taggart Ranch owns the other section, and then we own Monte Vista.
right.
So even through there, I don't think it's county other than their easement next to the road. But we can't get too close to the creek bed because of floodplain, right?
Right, well, yeah, we've gotta stay high enough to
Yeah.
keep our
But
wells out of the.
there might also be, isn't there a space between, where the church is and like Falcon's Nest that goes out a ways that doesn't?
That's where I was talking about where,
The other side of Lions Daycare, right?
No, because Falcon's Nest is on this side of the landscape here.
It's on
It's on this side.
this side.
And that's where I'm saying is where the Crown Breakers has their
Okay, I didn't realize that.
stuff. But yeah, through there, so that's, I think, privately owned. I'm excited about it anyway, and it'd be good to, if we could continue moving on with, some work.
And that's the goal, is to pay for the you're gonna have to go through this if you got to keep folks moving forward. And that way it would be more a positive, thing.
Yeah, Ken Schmidt, recommended some, sites that look best
Right.
in his report, and so we'd be looking, in those areas, specifically. Near Well 5 is a really good place. So, that, you remember, when we did the geophysical testing, we discovered that, we had a fault block situation where Well 5 is in a down thrust block, and that's why it's the deepest well, it's the deepest well we have. And the geophysical testing showed that, that was kind of a unique area, because, it is a down thrust block, and, and the water quality is really good. So, that's, one of the things we'd want to look at would be, can we find some areas, an area in that block to access more of that water? And then there's some other sites to the west that Ken recommends.
Austin,
yes.
I know it was an A.
Where is your guys' Well 5?
You know where the old Tate Ranch is? Right next to it's actually our best producer. It's like almost 500 gallons a minute.
Yeah, good water quality as well. Yeah, good place to drill if we can, wrangle a site.
Yeah, they were saying that.
Right around that same area as Well 5. Because luckily, well, you probably can't do it right there on the site though.
No, we have to be separated.
Because we wouldn't want to abandon 5.
No, one good thing about it is though that, we do have really good water quality there, and I think there's a really high yield, good sands, and so, when you have, good transmissivity in the sands, you can tighten up your wells, because the water flows so well that you don't draw down as much in those areas. So, that's all in Ken Schmidt's purview, but, we would get it as far away as we needed to not interfere with well. But it might be surprising how close we can get them in that area.
Well, because to the south of the building at Well 5, a guy named Mike Carr owns the A-frame house, and then he owns some property down at the bottom. And I don't know, you might not be too opposed to more there.
Actually, when I was looking at the study that you did, it looked like a little bit more to the
To the
west.
East or west?
West.
Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but not as far back as where his property is. It was like more kind of northwest.
I've slept for a couple of days since the time when I looked at that.
Well, unfortunately, northwest of
But
there
there was
is,
like a deeper pocket. There was actually
Yeah.
a deeper pocket.
the northwest of there is all houses.
No, not where the houses are. Before you get to like where Sia, I think it's their property though.
That would have to, oh, well, that would be,
So, yeah, I
The
don't know what it's
northeast.
called.
because northwest is directly across the street is the lower sign that we own.
Oh yeah, it's not their property. It's you're right. It's where the houses are. So it's like kind of out in the road there, or not in the road. But
Yeah, which, that's what I'm saying, that there's 2 houses there, 3 houses there, across the street from the tank. Right at the end of those houses, there's an empty big white lot
Right.
below Mike's, so.
Will's a good neighbor, really. Quiet.
Yeah.
They don't party at night.
Yeah,
Weekends or,
exactly.
And
And he actually looks out for our site all the time too, so that's good.
except when they get sick and have to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Get
the
pulled for
doctor
service.
calls are kinda expensive, but they are quiet, you know, from most, from the standpoint of, you know, you don't have to do normal negative calls.
Well, I was wondering if you folks wanted to approve that, we would try to use those, go to ask self-help for the, or to recommend or whatever you want to, go for those $82,000 from, then we would,
Move that we, adopt the, idea, or that we ask for funds from self-help, from the Prop 1 money to do the highlighted items that are in, the regional water system planning project that Dave and Carlos are both highlighted.
Or
Which one?
right here,
Carlos?
detailed here.
Yeah, so the detail under 2, procure 3 test well sites, includes plans and specifications and environmental, around 82,000, you said?
Right, but I've got a better breakdown, Dee and Curtis, and I did a more detailed
so
breakdown
under-
on the cover sheet.
Under this sheet, it says, all of the different amounts for
Yeah, this top
total,
section.
total test well pre-construction.
Pre-construction work.
So let me reword that, make it easier. I move that we, ask self-help to procure, the Prop 1 money that they have for our pre-construction work for the test wells, which is attorney preparation of licenses to drill, title reports for test well sites, licenses to drill, engineering design, plans and specs for test wells, and environmental costs, a total of about $82,000.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 401. Okay. Fraser Park, Lake of the Woods, planning phase work. Is that different?
Number
Number
6.
6.
Okay. Yeah, there's nothing to sign on that contract. Signed planning funding agreement, funding contract, is that what the word?
No, you have,
An earlier
this
one.
one. I think you have like that.
Ah, okay. I think that was the vote, meant to be.
Okay. So that's the 401, okay,
Yeah, sorry.
okay. Okay, on to the next one, Lake of the Woods, Fraser Park, annexation related work.
You're holding off on that, right?
Yeah.
What we decided to do is to, on the MOUs, well, we were supposed to do the drafts, which still haven't happened, but not sign them, the final draft.
We've got,
But I think that's B actually, so we should, I guess, talk about A first.
okay.
Oh, yeah, the additional outreach to the new, and to, a new deadline for including, other people into the regional project.
I was waiting to do any kind of outreach until we actually get the agreements and MOUs worked out. So we know for sure what we're gonna do. And, now we have time. So,
I think we need to do it well, yeah, but we said we weren't gonna sign them, but yes, we were gonna have the drafts, basically, which we don't have yet.
but yeah, I mean, reaching out and talking to people, I'd like to have them sign whatever it is the new people should sign at the time, the new MOU or agreement, whatever we wanna call it, when they decide to join on.
Instead of-
We talked about not
Just a verbal?
finalizing it though.
Huh?
We talked about not finalizing it, I guess we could,
So why would we do it then? Why not just wait until we're ready to finalize it? Just out of curiosity. Cause then we gotta go back twice and it's really hard to get a hold of a lot of these people.
So you're saying we should just push the date way forward?
Yeah, I'm just saying that until we absolutely have to do it, we can get everything else
Right.
ready, and then when we are ready, we can go and say, hey, look, if you are interested, last chance, sign this right now, and then that's their agreement. Does that seem to make sense, Dave and Dee?
Well, I know Dee will be putting together a final report on the project that will need to cover all the bases with maps and who's gonna be involved.
Yeah, we just need to figure out when, because Lisa was talking about not making it final, but at some point we need to decide how soon you need this, and then it'll have to be final at that time.
It wasn't just me, it was what we agreed to.
Well, no, I mean, okay, the board.
Not just the board, that was that conversation we had with Scott and Ernest, and is that they felt that we didn't really, that we were gonna do sort of a final draft, but we weren't going to sign any of that until we had more details, because we really needed to know what happens with the test wells.
So we need just a rough idea of who's gonna join in. And
Yeah,
fill
so
them
we
out.
need,
So I'm worried that if we do a rough idea and they don't actually sign something, then we're gonna get somebody like we've had right now that decides, oh, well, wait, I don't wanna do it. And I'd rather have them sign something so they're committed to it before he redraws them.
When you go doing this, and, you know, the county surveyor, the current county just changed persons.
Yes.
And so we have a new county surveyor, and, we went back with, this same type of, alteration of, the other that we're creating, and the new surveyor, you know, has a lot of, you know, opened up a whole can of worms, and it's taken us probably 2 or 3 times longer to answer all the questions that that surveyor has that the other didn't. And so, you know, it just, the sooner we get to the point where we know who's gonna be in, the better, because you never know how long it's gonna take when you go back through.
So that we could just get the same thing that they signed last time, the people that have joined, and have them sign that.
I think they need to see the draft, the, final draft,
Well, everybody
even
else,
if it's not signed.
well, everybody else signed it with the ballot thing that we.
I know, but that,
No, I mean, they all signed it and that was good enough for the map, for the state and everybody, right?
Yeah.
Until people
We use the
decided to
state.
drop out.
Well, we use the state format essentially for those individual properties and stuff.
Could you help with that, cause I think you did it last time, the ballot, could you change it to, you know, put, you know, this is the last opportunity to join in, and
Absolutely. Carlos is at your disposal.
so we just need to decide, the date though, when it's finalized.
Director Schomburg?
talking without asking, but I would just say, since all of this is being pushed forward some though, that maybe we can push that date forward a little more than what we originally thought, because I thought that we were talking about in the next, like, month or two.
Well, we need to figure out how soon Dee needs to start getting the maps over to the planner, to the engineer, that's what's gonna decide it.
You know, you know, if you figure that if we alter this map, by the time we get through the county, we're gonna burn 3 months.
Yeah,
You know, so once we find out who wants to be in, and if somebody wants to be out, now we gotta go back through and we gotta change that map, change the legal description, and then we have to go to the county, and then we have to, you know, go back through their plan check, which can be, it can be time consuming.
so we ought to
So-
set it a month from when we start the outreach.
The big issue, which you were saying earlier, is somebody like Mr. Connor, that was the whole point, is he said he wanted to see the draft at least, or wanted to see something that was, that explained things a little bit greater detail than what we gave out when.
Yeah, but the impression I got with that was, from the state and, you know, my conversations was, the main thing was Carlos was gonna find out, or somebody was gonna find out if we could just put a T in front of the trailer park and move on past.
Right.
Because, and not worry about, you know, if he opts out, he's opting out, and we'll just put a T there for future reference. But I think most of the property owners are, we haven't had any private property owners that have given us any grief. they're all, I'm just hoping that the other 3 people down in Cuddy Creek that opted out decide to go ahead and opt in now. Plus it's an easy change on the map. Just include them, but I wouldn't anticipate many changes.
I mean, the big change is the church, which we now have
There's the church,
understood that
and
we're
then
including.
if there's anybody in what's the name?
Bear
Bear
Court
Court, but I think we pretty much got them locked in. Everybody there
We
wants
have
to do
everyone,
it.
don't we?
I think the only
Is there
people
not?
we have to concern ourselves with is the new owners, or who, not new owners, but whoever owns the dog grooming place
Right, the
and the
storage.
new coffee shop, and those people that are off for Connors well, because they're gonna have to decide if they're gonna join.
I think those properties have signed.
They have signed?
Yeah,
Okay, so we're good then.
they have
But-
signed. You're going to other people who haven't signed.
Yeah, I didn't realize they had signed.
Yeah, they have
You
signed.
handled that.
So even
Hanson.
though they're fed by Mr. Connor and he's opting out, it doesn't matter at this point because they
No, because they're private property owners, I believe. They're just sharing his well, right?
Right.
Paying him for it.
Was Mr. Connor opting out, or, I thought, well, where are we with that?
The impression I got, and what he said to me point blank multiple times, when you get past the, well, maybe I do want to join in or whatever, is simple. If we are not prepared to provide him with piping and take over his whole system, he did not want to participate. But we want to, Carlos was gonna check or see if we could leave him in the LAFCO, but not include him in the project and just put a T when we go past his property. And he seemed to be good with that. But other than that, he doesn't want to be part.
And that shouldn't be, I mean, that's a, that should be no problem.
Yeah, and if we
You know,
can't,
just leaving a,
and if we can't, then the state said, well, then he could pay for he would have to pay for the LAFCO himself
two,
later on to join in if he opted out of that option. So he's really only got a couple options.
And wasn't the state sort of pressuring him to join because he's
Yeah.
got
Yes.
problems
Yeah,
with his wells?
Yeah, the State Water Resource
Well-
Board was trying to tell him that they thought it was a very good idea to join.
In
But-
fact, they came to a meeting.
But
to-
all they can give him is direction. They can't make him do something like that.
Actually-
Unless he's in total violation. If he's in violation, I think they could insist more.
Well, the state has a law where they can force systems to consolidate.
But maybe I need to just check with the state and find out where they're at on it, because they, Ozzy he seemed very adamant that he should join, but to my knowledge, he didn't use the verbiage that you must join.
And, well, the state has a law that they can force adjacent users to consolidate. And I guess the question of will they let him, the question is that he also had nitrates in the well,
Mhm.
but I heard that it was getting cleaned up with the drought, with the
Yeah.
more,
With the
frequent
water.
water.
Yeah, but that was
That's what
only
you're saying.
because we had water for a minute, but now we don't have that much water again.
What
so-
I'll do is I'll go down and I'll talk to Ozzy at the State Water Resource Control Board on Monday. I'll stop in, I'll see him, and I'll ask him and Jesse what their view is on it, because they understand that we're trying to get the maps drawn, and just ask them point blank, look, what do you wanna do? And maybe they could get a definitive answer out of it.
yeah, and Ernest said that there was no problem with including him in the district and not providing him water.
Oh, good.
He's got his own system, state certified system, so, there wouldn't be any problem with that. We could leave him in, and not serve him. So, we just need to find out before we start mapping. And, there's always, the opportunity to, annex other properties down the road if somebody else wants to come on.
Yeah.
And we have water for it. So, in my view, the sooner we find out who wants to be in now and who wants to be out if somebody wants to be out, and we get that anchored down, draw the map, and that's it. Then if anybody else, once we have a boundary.
Well, next week on Monday, I'll talk to Ozzy and I'll also do I'll change that ballot a little bit to fit our circumstance, send it to Carlos and send it to Ernest and see what both of them think. And then I could start canvassing right away as soon as I get the ballot, because there's no reason to wait then. Everybody, and Carlos sent me your list of who has joined already. So I'll just go through there, and whoever didn't join is who I'm gonna talk to.
If there's a question, let me know. And I mean, we could set up a conference call with Jesse and Asiel, and they may want to bring in other folks from the state level too.
After I talk to them in their office and find out kind of where they're at, we may need to do that. But
You want to talk to them first? Okay.
well, I mean, I don't have to, but I just think that we've already hashed it a few times, and I think that they're going to have to decide what's important to them, if they're going to make him do it or not make him do it, and then it'll be up to him to decide what avenue he wants to take.
Because they were here and he was here, and it didn't really go anywhere.
We try to talk to him, and it seems to just bounce all over the place, and it's not really a definitive, this is what I want, or this is what I think.
But it's because he keeps saying he wants to see some sort of MOU or so that's why, I mean, I feel like we're sort of chasing around and that maybe we just need, I mean, we already agreed that we weren't gonna sign them, they weren't gonna be hard and fast, but at least they were gonna be something that someone could read and get a really good, clear idea besides just sitting in the meeting and print. So.
Well, we definitely need him to
get those first.
We definitely have them sign that ballot like the other guys did.
Mhm.
So there is a commitment on their part to it, so we could draw the maps.
But I think that we weren't waiting on that much to get the draft MOUs, so we need to just see where we're at on that. I haven't seen anything on my email since we had
I
that
think
phone
Ernest to
conference.
drop an MOU with Mr. Connor, it'd probably be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, Ernest implied that basically the ballots that we sent out had the pertinent information right away. Then when I asked them to join on, they could actually just sign that. But it takes a while when we go through that process, because then the next board meeting will be a month. So that means nothing will be able to get approved for a month. Now it's setting us back farther and farther. So if you guys are okay with it, with the ballot that we had before, then I could at least start the work now. Because it takes a while, because you go out there and people are going to work, and then you gotta go back, after work hours, and it takes a while. Dave went out, he canvassed multiple times out there.
Yeah, well, we all were. Yeah.
Yeah, I was hitting Bear Court and that kind of area is just difficult, so are you guys okay with that?
I think with the additional people, we can do that and we can tell them that we have this draft that's.
Several of them since,
Didn't worry about it.
they just want it to happen.
Yeah.
They're, look, I signed this 2 years ago, or however long it is, when's it gonna happen? So nobody is really like giving grief about it, they want it to happen.
Right, but these are the people who didn't want it to happen that you're gonna be canvassing
That I'm
now.
gonna be talking to, yeah, and that ought to be simple too. Once I talk to them, they're either gonna say, no, I told you already, I don't wanna join.
And we did not get some places just didn't reply.
Yeah.
But some places did say no. I think I have another tick on me.
I don't know. Yeah, I got the heebie-jeebies now too.
Something's biting me, but it's not a tick. So you brought, there's something, I got bit really badly on my ankle.
What?
Does he need help? Like,
I don't know.
Depends where it is.
I know. It's on his head. Someone else might need to help him.
I don't see an actual.
Well, do I hear
anything, but I got bites.
a motion kind of thing on a date?
I guess it's still gonna have to be decided by when
A deadline?
he gets the MOU's done. I mean, I would like to see 30 days from when we start.
I'd
When
like
they
to see
could join
30
it.
days from right now.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd like to
yeah.
say,
Yeah, I mean, if you guys direct me to start, I can go out and I can start next week talking to everybody. It ain't gonna take that long. And then get a definitive yes or no.
and you're not gonna get Connor, so, I mean, because he wants us to go in and do all his piping and take over his entire system and be responsible for all of his piping and everything, and
Well, if that's his ultimate goal, but there's no finding water.
Right.
And, then Because to him, what I heard when he was at the meeting, you know, it's just basically dollars and cents.
Right.
He can provide his own water cheaper, and he's making a little bit of money on it, so I think that probably, you know, it's incentive to help, he can improve his system and do whatever he wants to do without being connected to us.
Right.
But there would be an advantage to have him have that system within the district boundaries. And I think, as I understand it, he's okay as long as, you know, we're not gonna provide him service and you know, we're not gonna bill him for a meter or anything else.
Right.
We're just gonna go by, and we don't even have to put a T in. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
we
it's
just
easy to
go
sell.
by and then we'll install a T later. For that matter, you know, it's always there. If he's a member of the district and if he requests water, then he would then pay for whatever connections would have to be made to bring water to his mobile home park. The good thing for him is that if this drought continues for the next 5 years and he starts running out of water again, you know, we would be a good water source for him as a backup.
It's a good lifeline for him.
Yeah.
Well, I suspect this summer is gonna turn a lot of people around to wanting to join, but the people who didn't, because it looks to me like we didn't have much of a winter at all, so.
That's right.
Yeah, but can we wait till July to start canvassing? I mean,
Yeah, I can't wait that long, because we gotta get all that stuff
I
in
say,
planning.
you know, people either need to you just move on. Let's find out who wants to be part and let's go ahead.
Can we just do a blanket annex around like all of Bear Court that might have missed those homes, and the same with Cuddy Valley? Is it Cuddy Creek?
Kitty Creek.
Cuddy Creek.
And then just do a blanket so that if they end up annexing later, then it's, or wanting to come later, it's just equitable.
I could be wrong, but I believe that if you try to include somebody in an annexation, then that gives them the right to fight it.
Oh,
Right, and it
Right.
goes to a vote.
Because they don't want to be included in the district,
Yeah.
they want to stay out, and that gives them the right
But-
to go to the hearing.
okay.
But they, sorry.
go.
It'd have to be a certain percentage of either the voters or the landowners
They disagree, yeah.
to bring it to a vote.
But I think they also may not understand that just, I think if we're able to put them in the district, but they don't have to actually necessarily participate, like what Connor's doing, then I think that they would probably agree. I think it's more that they may feel that they're being forced into something that,
Be included in the LAFCO.
The whole reason for Connor is, you know, we were able to do that because he has his own system.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, you know, he's got his own system, his own water supply, but I don't think,
well, individual well owners have their own well.
right, but I mean,
can
if
have
they
their
wanna
own
be
well
part of
with
the district.
They would have to abandon that well.
They could keep it for irrigation, we put in a,
Right.
you know,
Right.
a backflow prevention device. But, really the whole point is if you're signing up, you want water from the district.
So there's no way to do it with an individual well owner. It's
Plus, I don't even think it's important, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. I think that it's starting to, some of it's getting to be like where they're doing us a favor by joining, and really, from the start, we are willing to help out people that need water.
Then,
So we need to go and say, look, we have the opportunity one last time to join. If you wanna join, great. If you don't wanna join, great. You know, I understand that, we're in America, but, I'm not gonna try to talk them into it if they're against
Yeah,
it.
I don't see putting that much more effort into it, come on.
Yeah.
Beating a dead horse.
But I think, well.
We did that
yes.
last time.
Yes and no, but I think a lot of times people don't think ahead, and that's why we have the situation where the church suddenly wanted to come in, and people, it's like, they're not really thinking about it clearly enough and just how much it's gonna cost if after the fact they decide to
But see,
change
that's why
their
the
mind.
state, I asked specifically, okay, you want us to do this? Well, if we set a deadline to join, and they were good with that. They're okay with knowing outreach. The only reason the church got to join is because this convoluted who was notified, who wasn't notified, I'm the decision maker, I didn't get notified, it went to somebody else. That's why he gets to
right.
join. That's why he went to the state. Everybody else, as long as we know that we have something saying, no, I don't wanna join, the state's gonna be okay with that.
I think it
I
takes it
think
away
we-
from what we're doing.
Yeah.
I would,
You know, I think it wastes time. I mean,
I would say go with the map that we've got. I wouldn't even go canvassing again. I mean, they've already said no.
And it does come down to, if you have people who aren't gonna hook up, the state's not gonna pay for capacity fees for people who aren't gonna hook up.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to pay for it at a later date.
Right.
And so there is some breakdown on the costs when you go to the state. Here's how much the project costs. Well, we have 530 users, for example, but that are going to connect. Okay, then you apply the appropriate capacity fees that the district needs to obtain upon the project approval and annexation. But then you have 3, 4, 5, or maybe you might have all the connections at a mobile home park. They can't if the mobile home park's not going to connect, they're not going to pay the district those capacity fees.
Yeah.
It'll have to be up to the mobile home park to pay it.
Yeah.
When and if they decide to come in.
Which I'm good with that. This project's been going on a
It's
long
important for them to
time.
know that.
Yeah, I don't know, I disagree with you guys, just in the fact that I feel like there were some other people that came to that one meeting that were still like on the fence. It was more than just the church. There was, and I don't know who they were, but there was at least one other person. I thought there were two.
I personally haven't talked to anybody.
Yeah.
Nobody's told me I wanted to join, but I wasn't allowed.
Well, no, they were just quite. Who were there was somebody
I have
at
no
that
idea.
one meeting that we were talking to Connor and.
I have no idea. Some people came with Connor.
You know, this whole thing came about because we needed to add the church.
Yeah.
And so that means we modify the map. And we said, well, if we're gonna modify the map, let's go back and talk to these people one more time, make sure they don't wanna come in, because we gotta modify the map to get the church in.
Right.
So, you know, if we're gonna do that, let's do it one more time,
That's what I say.
you know. And
that was actually my idea initially. We need to just do it quickly and without a lot of fanfare. Just make sure I verbally talk to each person and say, look, do you want in or out? I mean, I always answer any questions they got. I'm well versed in the whole pros and cons of it all. So all the I haven't looked at the list that you sent me. I have to look at the list, but I don't think there was that many people that opted out that I have to talk to.
I'd be happy to help go through it with you.
That'd be great.
Can you copy my email with the people that are left?
Yeah, they're on the list. Yeah, we have a list.
Okay,
So can we set it?
so do you wanna set a date or no?
I think why don't you let Johnny go out and kind of see what, you know, as soon as we have the names of the people, why don't we canvass? And if it looks like some people are kind of on the fence, then push the date just a little bit further. And if it looks like no one's, it's the exact same as what we had before, then we should set the date.
Well, see, I want to put it on the ballot and be able to tell
A
everybody.
drop dead date.
You have until 1 month from today's date. You have until next month at this time, or it's too late to join in.
Lisa.
Then I would say like July 1st or something, because by then it's hot. We probably won't have had a lot of rain. We're probably going to be in another drought year, and maybe people will start thinking about
But
it.
then that's
Well,
pushing the
Is that too
plans
far?
back. Yeah, because he's
Because
saying it's
then
going
that's
to
3
take
more
5
months.
months after
It's
we
not
do
3
it.
to 5 months
It's
after
not 3
that.
months. We're in May in a
No,
second.
he's saying it's going to take 4 or 5 months to do planning, right?
3 to
I'd
3.
say about 3. Once we determine who wants in, and then we go through and do our
And
revisions.
it's gonna take a couple of,
Then it goes to the
Weeks.
county, and the county takes at least a month to go through it. And then if they have comments, which they always do, then we have to go back through and address all those comments, and then resubmit the map. And, you know, then it could take up to another month to do that. You know, it depends on where we fit in the stack of work that they have to do. So, you know, I'm saying at least 3 months, figure at least 3 months, and it may take a little bit, could take 4, but, you know, from the time that we've identified these additional properties 3 months, we need about 3 months to get the mapping done, to revise it.
I'd say June 1st, because it's, like I'm saying, there's not that many people that opted out. And it's not a big decision that's new to them. They know it's been going on for 2.5 years. They know. They've talked to their neighbors that decided to join in. They've had plenty of time to think about it. It's just one more time of do you yes or no. It's not gonna, plus, if you put it out too far, then you're leaving a tracking issue where now we gotta go back out and canvas again, because now these people have till this long, now we gotta go talk to them again and try to find out if they're gonna do it. I'd rather have it, look, sign it now or, sorry.
Well, you're talking, you don't want, I mean, you're
We
talking October.
can't do anything until December on the planning. So we're kinda stuck in, I mean, other than the money that we're gonna get from self-help to start doing the initial stuff for the test well, so I don't,
Well, actually,
we're holding off on the annexation, so it's kinda, I don't see the difference in 1 month, but that's just me.
well, it just seems like we're overcomplicating it is all. It's just, for me going out, walking door to door to everybody and trying to meet them when they get home from work, it's really a decision that they can make when I'm talking to them. It's not, go ahead and think about it for 6 weeks and then get back to me and let me know, because then it's harder. We'll run an ad in the paper too. We'll ask Patrick to do a big paper thing again, and we'll do the whole outreach thing.
With
Lisa.
that, might,
That might, actually, that might not be a good idea. That might make people
target-
decide, well, no, I don't wanna join in
Yeah,
now, take me out.
I wouldn't do that.
I would target the people.
Linda,
My question is, and those that haven't opted in, are they aware, or do we know, have they been aware or been given the information as to, the positives of joining and
Yeah.
what would happen if they don't join?
Yeah, most of them opted out with full knowledge. There's only some people that didn't answer. Most of them opted out with full knowledge of what the project was, and I don't blame them. There's a lot of people that are sitting, they have a well that's been working fine for them. They don't wanna be beholden to anybody or pay a water bill, and I totally get that. If I had a ranch myself and I had a water supply that was holding up, I wouldn't wanna join in either. I'd sit back and say, yeah, I'm good. But if you have water issues, like Bear Court, they have water issues, they all opted in because they've been battling it and spending tons of money trying to fight this, so.
Right, but some people may be having water issues now again, whereas they didn't, cause I think that's what happened with Connor, is everything filled back up, cause he's got a shallow basin area there and everything was great.
But, being an adult always relies on those things. You pay for your consequences for your decision that you
That's
made
right.
at that time. And if they opt out a second time, they got nobody to blame but themselves if they run out of water.
This is basically a recanvassing, I think, of those people,
Yeah.
and just double checking, wanna make sure. And there's always a way in later. Our project's not gonna be built for years
Yeah.
down the road, but not saying that, but I'm just saying there is plenty of time, either between now and the time that the project gets built, or after the project gets built and somebody says, gee whiz, my well's going dry and I'm tired of fighting it, I want to annex to the district, then they pay
But
the
at that
annexation.
point, they have to pay all the fees.
They have to pay the fees, but
So it's not just an annexation fee, no, it's a capacity
Well, see,
fee.
plus we
It's
also
pretty
decided
expensive.
that if necessary, we could provide water to somebody that's not even LAFCO'd in, like we do take
right,
ranch.
just in an emergency situation, you can do.
If they go to the state or they come to us and say, look, I have no water and I have a house there, it wouldn't be that big of a process to be able to provide them water.
Oh, that's true.
They just wouldn't be LAFCO'd in.
Right, you can provide emergency service. So it's not like they're gonna dry up and, if we have a facility, we can help them out.
Yeah.
But, I think, give them a reasonable time. I think 30 days from the time that you set that you're gonna talk to these guys. And it's just one more chance to say yes or no, and we've double checked, and then we move on with our project. And that's just another thing that we can get done, on the way to getting this thing financed and built.
But I really think it's just a handful of people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, it's not that
Is
many
it just
people.
that, is it only
Yeah.
like 8 people or 10 people or something?
I don't think it's any more than that.
Yeah.
No, then,
Yeah, but so it'd be more, you could select, you have a target group that you need to contact with that
That's which is
specific
gonna make it a lot
information.
easier. That's what I'm saying, there's not, most people have opted in. They're, yeah, of course.
I'm convinced, then
Okay.
I move that we make we start canvassing.
Perfect.
Do I hear a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 401.
There we go.
That's perfect timing. Cool, next.
Yes.
Otherwise, MOUs?
Yeah, MOUs for those participating.
Pretty much perfect.
How's, the Lake of the Woods MOU going?
I've done everything since our meeting. I resent the assets. Do you want me to talk?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I resent the assets, updated what Dee and I talked about, which I later saw just below all of the information. I did say on the system, but it makes it better at the very beginning that you guys know you get on the system. Did you guys have anything to add to the assets? And Scott's not said anything either, so. I think the only thing we were adding on there was well number 5 being abandoned during the annexation process, so that it can be abandoned properly and then it'll be in that process. It'll be taken care of through the annexation money.
And it was just that wording they were supposed to put in that paragraph
Right,
that
for
we
well
talked
number-
about and,
Right, that was it.
and, yeah, and
Do you
give
haven't heard
us a.
anything from Ernest either? Okay.
I'm just
Haven't
wondering,
gotten
usually
anything.
if Scott sends something to Ernest, he includes us, Ernest does, and so maybe Scott just hasn't.
Well, he sent, maybe, I thought maybe everybody got it. I'm pretty sure he sent a revised
I thought there was an
MOU.
email.
to Ernest, and he basically said, you know, I've incorporated pretty much all of it with your comments. And, you know,
We're good to
I
go.
just kind of glanced through it and, you know, it looked like they were pretty much in agreement. Is
Yeah,
it?
I
When
think that
was
was my
that?
understanding at
I
that
got one
meeting.
April 19th.
Oh, I don't think I got that.
So I
So
thought,
April 19th?
I got an email from,
I don't think I did. I
Scott.
went back through all of my emails when I got back from vacation.
yeah,
Were
from
we
Ernest,
included?
it's a revised MOU.
Was I included in it?
Oh, I did get, this was the one where Ernest said he hadn't read it. He hadn't reviewed it, and he was out of town. That was on the 19th.
and Scott, that was the one that.
Scott sent something, but
Yes,
Ernest hadn't
right,
reviewed
Right,
it.
So now we're waiting on Ernest.
right, they're waiting on us and.
Yeah, because Scott said I kept all the prior revisions, but deleted the comments, added language in comments. Then regarding the funding issue we discussed on the teleconference.
Yeah, I didn't.
Alright, I'm gonna send him an email right now and ask him.
So yeah, it's actually on Ernest now.
Okay.
I didn't get anything from Ernest though.
Tiffany, can you send that to me? Because I don't see it in the emails.
Yeah, I can forward it to you.
Thank you.
Did he copy Carlos in that? If not, forward it to me and Carlos.
It's from, this was from Ernest saying he didn't have time to look at it yet. He was gonna be gone for a few days.
It went to
And it-
Brahma and Lisa,
Yeah, us.
me and Tiffany and Dee.
Yeah, it didn't go to Carlos.
Let's see Scott though. Let's see, that was Ernest's response.
You need to forward it not only to Pam, but to Dave and Carlos.
Yep.
And then,
And Scott's went only to Ernest.
then we need to, ask Ernest if he's looked at it, if he's back from vacation. The, private wells aren't done.
He was supposed to come up with a draft that was kind of incorporating the ballot a little bit, but he didn't feel like that was sufficient, so he was gonna just make slight changes, he said, and then none of them were gonna be signed, they were all sort of drafts that we were gonna stick with, and we weren't gonna sign anything until we were at the end of the planning phase, because that gave us time in case something changed, but we were gonna have everything kinda laid out. And so, yeah, we're waiting on Ernest.
Right, cause they did sign a MOU, but it needed more. In the ballot, they signed something, they wanted to participate.
Right, but Ernest wanted something slightly, different than that.
Yeah.
He said it was a lot more complicated, but there was some other wording that he felt we were missing.
Okay. So we'll get back to this and go forward from there. Okay, discussion and review the claims and payouts and requests for payment.
Carlos left me a note that said he will send copies of invoices upon his return.
Okay, that takes care of that one then. Let's move on.
Okay, I just asked Ernest about that, and I included everybody pertinent, so we'll all get the answer at the same time.
So we should note the time that we're going on to the meter replacement since it's separate.
The meter is different. Okay, 7:13. Okay, discussion on the application of the grant funding for the meter replacement. Are we back to
Yeah.
where the state's not gonna pay for it?
No, the funding is still in, the plans inspection or the engineering report is due at the end of May. Dee, is that for the project?
And we're just about done with the plans. Got a couple of details to ask you, Johnny. And so certainly by the end of next week, we'll have the plans done, specifications, follow up in about another week, and maybe 2 weeks, but we're moving right ahead with it.
Want me to stop in on Monday when I go see the state?
I don't know where I'm gonna be. I've got a couple of meetings on that day.
I talked to one of your engineers that was drawing the plans a week or 2 ago. He had some questions. I had him speak to my lead operator.
Was that Sean or was that Matt?
I think it must have been Sean because I would have recognized Matt.
Yeah, I know a couple of those guys been working on it. But I think probably that we'll just need to discuss, you know, you sent me a note about the type of piping that we're gonna be connecting.
Oh, yeah.
Like 50% or better galvanized or whatever.
Yeah, it's actually better than that. It's the majority of the district is galvanized.
Yeah, and so we wanna make sure that we,
Confirm 100% because time-wise, we can't dig up
yeah,
every meter, but to the best of our knowledge, we're probably at least, I'd say 90% galvanized.
mm-hmm.
The only thing that's been poly, or everything's galvanized except for the new services that were poly, is about 2 blocks from our last project, and then whatever new services we put in, or a few that we've had to change out because they got plugged.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, it's not the reverse. You know, they're going to plan for galvanized, and if they hit poly, they're going to be thrilled with it,
Yeah.
as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
So we'll include that in the specs,
Cool.
you know, to anticipate, 9%, which would be, what, 1,100 connections, something like
Yeah.
that. And then the rest would be poly. And then, once we're at that point, and we have the specs in a rough draft form, technical side of it, then I think that'd be a good time to get together with you.
Yeah, we also changed the order of meters, which I wrote the meter reads at that time. Then when I read it again, I'll write down the new meter readings and then I'll forward them to you.
Yeah,
So you can look at them again and see if it makes a difference in how they were reading.
yeah, that's
And then we'll probably be able to decide then which one we want to go
what
for.
we're thinking, yeah.
Can you copy?
That's all I had on A.
And on the environmental one, the next part?
Yes.
Carlos is working with Tom Dotson, the environmental guy, to
Mhm.
get an estimate for he got an estimate for the environmental review that the state wants on the meter project. And it's waiting for, the amendment's been prepared for the work, and it's been sent to Tom Dodson for signature. Once we get the signature back, that Tom signed it, we've signed it, he signed it, he can start work for that. And that's a component that goes to the state as part of the application too. So Tom Dawson was actually more affordable than the other contractor. That is the environmental person. And we're paying for that with our self-help TA funds.
Thanks.
Lisa?
Isn't there like a biologic part of that we have to do now? And is that Tom Dawson also, or does he have to go to someone else for that?
Some of the work he contracts out, like the cultural and biological, but it's his company that coordinates and does that, but he does have to because there's some federal money, not only you have to do federal level, there's some parts of most of it's covered by CEQA, but there's some parts that are a little extra that they have to just touch bases on.
I'm just asking because that was such a big deal when we did the forestry permit. So
The funny thing though is with forestry, we actually were making disturbing things and changing things. It amazes me that they're making us do all of this for meter replacement, which is no disruption of anything except for, like for like change out, but they do
make you cover stuff. And I have a project that's very small, and we just saw that they had archaeologists go out there and they found some monos, some grind stuff. not the ground grinds, but the ones that they ground the stuff on, and they identified it as there were 2 monos there, and that is a potential. Yeah.
You don't think you're gonna find something in one of those boxes, huh?
No, I never have. In 9 years, I've never found anything interesting in the boxes.
some ants and
spiders.
Plenty ants. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say, they're gonna find some new spider that's gonna stop it.
And I think they're also looking around the area in a general around not just the box itself, but there may have to be further excavation. It's an important box that needs to be checked off as part of the funding, and that's why we're doing it. So the work should start on that.
Good. So that Prop 1 money is not. They haven't said that they ain't gonna fund this, or is it that this is gonna come in after the new ballots anyway?
It's probably gonna come in after the new funding, and if this, and I was reading the intended use plan for this next year's state drinking water money, and they commented that once they get if the bond measure in June is approved, it basically says it's just going to follow the same pattern as Prop 1. So it's not proposing anything different than Prop 1. It would basically so that it would make a good fit. Sometimes the funding comes and says, oh, you have to do this special thing, or Prop 84 had a big labor compliance component, and you had to go out and get individually certified for labor compliance, and it's part of bidding the job and making sure the contractor that everybody's paid the right wages. Prop 1 didn't have all that requirements.
The good thing is I've heard of.
You're still supposed to pay minimum wages, but
I've heard when they have the money that I've heard them say, if you have a shovel-ready project, they would fund it, and we would have a shovel-ready project by the time the funding came in, basically. So that would be good.
It's and they supported, and in their intended use plan they talk about all these great things that they want to support, and they did point out that a number of folks have applied for meter drought fund, which they see as a way to as a water savings, and they did point out in their draft plan, which I've been going through, that they are support of meter replacement / or installation.
Well, in June we need to start, when they have funding for it, we need to start a pipeline replacement. Correct. That's going to take another 4 or 5 years to go through that, right? Because that's going to be at least $13 million.
Wow. Well, you can,
Not to create more work, but
No,
I
no.
think it's probably time to start thinking about that. because-
and in some cases, you can, you have to go through planning. But if it's a fairly simple planning process and environmental, I would say it might be worth considering self-help technical assistance funds to pay for that planning, so the planning and environmental, so that you could apply for construction. That might be a way of
Great.
jumping forward.
Follow your lead,
So,
you guys know, so. Luckily, that environmental, had a positive side. The one guy wanted a measurement of all the roads, if you remember, so when I did that, then I sent the measurements to Dee, and he just to have a ballpark kind of figure of what it might be, so it kind of gave me an idea of what it would cost for mainline replacement, but that 12.5 million was only to replace one line in each road and the valves and the hydrants. So some roads, I don't know, when you get to engineering, you might need two pipes, because one's a distribution, one's a transmission, but, anyway, I'd like to get started if the board
It's a big
says,
project.
yeah,
It's much needed in this area.
much needed. Should we put that on the next agenda to at least
Yeah,
entertain it?
absolutely.
The next.
But we need to do that out of order, so can we put that on when we get to
Yeah,
level?
I'll ask when we get to that.
Mhm.
Austin
Oh,
has a question.
Austin. This is probably more of a question for Dave, but what happens to a project like that when the annexation goes through? Because isn't there supposedly a carrot dangling for the annexation to go through, that there's going to be more funds, more grant funds given to the new larger district?
There is, but I know the limit for the consolidation is $20 million.
Something there.
And we're sort of like right at that, right?
Yep.
And that's the problem. So you could apply it as a separate project.
Okay, but that wouldn't like get eaten into that.
It should, no,
dangling
it's a separate,
carrot.
it should be a separate application.
Okay.
And that would be, that's how you could deal with it. There's still carrots that the district is getting as part of the consolidation. New wells, better strengthen the supply.
And new line, I mean, there is some new line because you have to place new line in order to get to the boosters and all that stuff, but on Lost Padres.
Additional storage and other stuff too.
Storage, yeah.
And then, and as part of the construction project, which is part of the 20, is they have to pay, new users will have to come on and pay the capacity fees, and that's an eligible cost for the state money, so that's a substantial $2 or $3 million.
Which, as a side note, we discovered, I thought we would get a lot more out of it with the new piping, but since we have different pressure zones mixed along the way, it's not gonna be as beneficial as, we're not gonna be getting rid of as much as we thought, as much as I thought, because you can't mix pressure zones. So although we're running a pipe from booster station to booster station, we can only tie in one pressure zone probably to that pipe, as opposed to multiples along the way, unless we had that map redrawn, right?
Yeah, and it,
The state would have to approve that.
yeah. Yeah, you know, you certainly can't tie the pressure zone that's higher than the
Yeah,
pressure you cut.
yeah.
So, you know, you have to look at that and see what you can do.
So it's beneficial, but just not as much as I had hoped.
Yeah.
So that's like almost $4 million of part of the project cost for the capacity fees.
What is this capacity fee?
To buy into the system.
The state will pay us, right now our buy-in is $8,000 for a 3/4 inch meter.
Oh,
So
okay.
during the project, the state pays us that per connection.
Okay.
That goes into the project, obviously, it's not going into the coffers but that's what the capacity is.
Yeah, and it's money that you would have to set aside and use for physical improvements on your system, which would then include other parts of the system, but it's something that a district are required, or often have. Some places don't have them, but the users here on this system have paid for a lot of the stuff, or equipment and stuff like that. So it's just bringing you up square with everybody else.
Lisa?
Yeah, I think that was part of the Prop 218 study, was that we didn't have an emergency reserve. And, you know, we just started that, but it doesn't have much money in it, so that would be like one of the places that would probably need to go for making sure that we actually had emergency funds if something major happened.
And I think you could, yeah, there's another idea was that often during the project, you, places like Lake of the Woods have to go and get interim financing to cover construction costs.
And it could pay for that.
And, but it could, since it would be reimbursed, it would just be a way of covering those construction costs in the interim.
Yeah.
So you could avoid, you could, I believe, avoid having to get interim financing and paying interest on those costs.
But yeah, I'm glad we decided not to do that, get interim financing, because, you know, you never know. The state could do like they're doing now, saying, yeah, well, we don't have the money right now, so wait. But the loan that we would take out would not wait. They would still want to get paid their money, so it's good that we don't do that. We just make do with what they give us.
Well, comment, and that was my concern, that if people don't buy in now and suddenly realize that they don't have water, that not only would they be paying the annexation potentially, but even if we went ahead and served them emergency, they'd still have to come up with that $8,000 capacity fee,
Yeah, but isn't
or
that their fault?
more, depending on
I said, yeah, but
don't want to be a part of.
And also, I mean, it spreads the load for everyone. The more customers you have, the less the little things cost.
Right, the more customers you have, the less the prices go up on actually serving water, because it's spread out over a larger amount of customers.
Well, they know what costs are, like if they were to add on, if they were to agree now, what cost would be now to them versus what cost would be if they tried to do it later?
I mean, that's what I was trying to have, you know, something in the MOU, but I don't know.
yeah,
if
but
it's
see, that's
actually
just so
gonna happen.
ambiguous what it could cost, and it just opens up a whole nother huge can of worms. It's like deciding not to get your car maintained, and they tell you should do it every 5,000 miles. Well, you choose that you're not going to do it. You're going to do it every 10,000 miles. You're not going to tell them, well, yeah, but then you're going to have your transmission's going to cost that, your engine's going to cost this. You just know that there's going to be a huge cost down the road if you don't do it.
Well, we wouldn't be
And
able
that's
to
kind of the
say
same
all
situation.
that, but I mean, the
Yeah,
only
but-
thing we would be able to say is the capacity fee and the
Right, the different fees that,
annexation.
that-
Ultimately,
What
what I
they
tell
put it down.
everybody, what I told everybody 2 years ago is, right now is your opportunity to get in for free and have a reliable water source of good, safe drinking
Right.
water. And if you opt out of that, you may wind up with a house that isn't worth anything because you have no water.
Right,
So that's just how I explain it to them. It's pretty.
that's pretty
straightforward.
straightforward.
Didn't mince words, did you?
Well, that's what I mean, and most people understand, and they go,
Yeah.
yeah, that's why we've been worried for the last 2 years with our well getting down to the bottom, is because what's my house gonna be worth if I have no water?
That's why people keep saying, is this happening? Is this ever gonna happen?
I almost feel like we care more than they do.
We do.
You know what I mean? Like
We do.
we've been.
Oh, I feel that all day long in Lake of the Woods.
Yes. So,
Well, until Austin started coming, you were coming, because we heard your part, but.
Can we move on or what?
Yes.
Yeah. Work plan, project work plan? What's that?
Project work plan, I guess the only thing, Carlos's notes say, the only thing complete on the project work plan at this point is the needs assessment. And so there's other project work plan work that he has to finish.
Oh, okay. Okay,
So that needs to be carried over.
I guess you guys are done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now we'll go on to our financial business.
thanks for showing.
Thanks,
Oh, you
everybody.
guys want a copy of the signing, right?
Do we want to take 5 minutes?
You wanna take a 5-minute break?
Yeah.
Okay.
Potty
No.
break. Potty, yes.
Just
Take
so
some
they can
bread.
exit.
Yeah.
I move that we take a 5-minute break.
Take some break.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Just so they can get out of here without, you know, if somebody needs to say anything to anybody. Where's the towing, information? There's a towing.
That's
That's
the
been
body
made.
shop. They
Okay.
fixed the truck.
Okay. Oh, that's the.
That's the insurance thing we've already been
That's-
reimbursed for.
If I don't mute
It took
that,
me a minute
your
to figure
break
it out.
is
I was thinking,
recorded.
what? I didn't tell them. Then I
Oh,
looked at the
yeah, I was
dollar.
like,
7:45, back from break. Accounts payable and financial information. Linda.
Hello, okay, you've got the list of checks, and, most of the checks are pretty much what we get every month. There's a couple of items I wanna bring to your attention. The bank card, is $4,500. That payment was actually due yesterday, but we didn't even get this until, wasn't here before I knew that, so, that payment should be taken to the bank right away. The, other thing I wanted to bring up, there's a couple of charges on there. The one for QuickBooks was $379.95, that's the annual automatic renewal, that we have every year on that. And then, the other one was the Herc
I didn't even
Riddles,
see the
and
QuickBooks.
it's the very first one, there's not a receipt, it's an automatic. It's part of bank card.
It's part of the
yeah.
bank card.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then there was the 2,000 plus with the West, those two amounts were already paid by, reimbursement, so that's what those are taken care of. Then the current asphalt paving, that was for work done on Los Padres and Escalon Trail.
That was yesterday.
And Johnny asked me to cut those checks now. You have the proposal for that. And I didn't know, Johnny, I didn't know if you wanted that to be mailed or if you're going to give it to them.
No, we can mail it.
Okay. All right. So
But that is-
That's the check with Johnny before mailing?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was what that was.
And what that is, just so you know, is we've been using California paving, but I've noticed, I really like the guy for years, but I noticed that the prices have been going up. The quality of work has been going down. So when I talked to the pharmacist at on the new pharmacy, he uses Kern Paving down in Bakersfield. It came highly recommended. I called them up. They were easy to work with, and he was $2,000 less than California Paving would have been. And California Paving, we always take our tractor out and prep it and get it all ready. All they have to do is tack it and lay the asphalt. These guys did all of that for less money.
Great.
Perfect.
So
We got a new contractor.
yeah, so I'm gonna stick with them and get good. They did a really good job. They went above and beyond. I even told them that they could take a shortcut because we had to do a patch over at the storage unit. I said, you don't have to go the 6 inches that you do on the Kern County roads because there's no traffic. Their stuff is only 2 inches. I said, you don't have to go 6. No, you paid for 6, and we're gonna do it 6. So they did it anyway. But I was just trying to match their existing. But they wanted to do it good, so I like them.
Don't ever say that again.
Well,
The other thing I wanted to bring up was about and you actually talked about it earlier in the meeting, was the emergency reserve. As of today, after cutting today's checks, the balance in the account is $303,000 plus a few extra dollars. Okay. Our monthly average over the past 10 months of expenditures runs about $90,000 per month. So and this is after we just made our payment to USDA. Those funds have cleared the accounts. And so I'm recommending that even after 1 month, we still have $200,000. I'm recommending that you transfer at least $100,000 over to the emergency reserve fund, and we'll be fine, and we'll have enough money by October for the next payments as well.
Sounds good.
Lisa.
I'd like to move that we transfer $100,000 over to emergency reserve.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 nice.
401. Lisa.
And I didn't see anything weird. I asked a couple questions and Linda actually.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's
401.
the end of my report, except for next month, I will have a preliminary budget just to give to you for your review and looking at later, just as to get started on the process.
Cool.
And that will be based on activity through, 10 months worth of activity.
Actually, I did have one question, the $3.50, I forgot to ask that. Why was it $3.50?
That was postage that was put onto Tiffany's credit card.
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay.
I'm gonna pass around some bills for a second signature, and then I've got, I think, just one that needs a third signature.
Okay. New business. Discussion and vote on the 2018 special district assessments.
So the reason that's on here, I gave you a copy of my critical dates for this annual special assessments that I always do, but I have to sign, the first thing, the district maintenance information, needs to be signed, so I put that on there so we can get it signed. It's due May 4th. And they want it well before May 4th. They're sticking to deadlines a lot tougher this year. They want things in before the deadline. So I'll just pass that around.
This, can I just,
Sorry, just to.
Lisa.
this is top of it now, which is awesome.
Because she rocks.
Yeah.
So you're the last signature on both.
Okay.
It probably could have been Brahma as treasurer, but I knew he wasn't gonna be
Gonna
here,
be here,
and
yeah.
it's, if you don't get it in by the due date, you don't get to do your assessment, so. I put Lisa's signature, mine, and Johnny's.
That is very quiet.
Good night, everybody.
Good
night.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Do I need to date it, or are you gonna do that?
It's up to you. It's the 26th.
These just tell them what funds we have,
So they need you
Um,
on
what-
signature too, on both of them.
what the two funds are that we're gonna do the assessments on.
So it's the standby fees and then the delinquent accounts.
426.
So I'm gonna pass around, this one needs 3 signatures, I
Okay,
already
just
signed
gonna
it.
ask
but
about
it
it.
needs-
Sign, but yeah, you know.
And that's
There
it,
it's-
those two,
To, over here,
sorry,
across
it
the
just
table.
needs, it needs 2 more signatures, those 2.
Okay. So that's that. Okay, how about the, any future agenda items?
So did she want the budget on the first meeting in May?
Well, if you-
Is that what she was saying?
Yeah, I think that's what she was saying.
Yeah, the
So-
first
But-
regular meeting.
But if we put,
You know, above and below, when it looks like we took all of them.
shouldn't an ad hoc go over the budget before send it to the board?
Yeah.
Because it does no good to put it on the agenda.
Right, there's not really anything to go.
There's nothing
Okay.
and it's
We should
always
do it
gotta
on
be
the following agenda for June.
You guys get to decide about an ad hoc,
Yeah,
because that's what's gonna have to be
so
done.
we should put the ad hoc on there just to double check.
Approve the ad hoc?
Yeah, because then me and whoever the ad hoc is can sit down like we did last year and
And go
go
through it.
through it.
Is there going to be a May 2nd meeting?
No, doesn't sound like it.
Great.
I
So,
mean, I don't know what we'd go over because we have,
If anything changed, I could always notify you guys, but
Yeah.
I think we should just go with no.
hold off and then
and
do it
then
in
to
June.
just put it as a, we're not meeting that, because it's scheduled as a regular meeting, so just put it as we're not meeting that day.
Right.
Oh, that's right, 'cause it's not.
All we have to do is post it, right?
Yeah,
Put it on the website and then post it.
Meeting council.
Yeah.
no meeting.
Well, due to lack of, we don't have stuff
lack
that we
of
really need
interest.
to talk about that day.
And what-
Unless we have other stuff we need to do on a second meeting that has nothing to do
Gotta
with
be
being
honest, right?
repaid.
Where were we gonna put the, was it the pipeline grant possible? Is that what you were saying?
That would
For an
be
agenda
at the next, I would imagine we're gonna put that on our next,
Regular meeting.
So then what do we do
Regular
about
yeah.
So
bills
the
that
May
come
meeting?
in after our?
Yeah, because we have to vote to,
Meeting.
to have them start the
Yeah,
process, because they'll
problem.
have to go through
We
that
have
whole
to-
process
they have to
again.
take 'em
I can't
around.
believe I'm actually recommending we do that, because it's like shooting myself in the foot, but we need to start that,
What's that?
the main line replacement process, even though it's 5 years of work, we still need to.
Is there
get
not
started.
anything else, Tiffany, that we need to do? I mean, the budget won't be ready enough, so that doesn't make sense. Is there something else that has nothing to do with pre-planning that we need a second meeting for?
In May,
Yeah,
the only other thing we do is meter replacement stuff.
yeah, but it's not far enough along.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna be an issue.
And if he needs, no, he was gonna put in the grant application, I think at the end of June. So I think there'll be another meeting before he submits the application.
Everybody outside was hoping for no meeting in May, but nobody was really sure, so can you send an email to everybody
Yeah,
and tell
Double
everybody that, no, and then they'll tell us, well, wait, we need one. But I think they're all for it. Wasn't it great to see Dave today?
Yeah, it's really nice.
Well, I told him that.
I miss him coming around, man,
He was such a sweet soul.
yeah, he's very sharp. He thinks, we were trying to figure out how long he's been coming here. He thinks that when he started coming here, you were on the board already. Were you on the board?
Oh, yeah, she
I was
was
on the
older
board
before me.
Before,
Jerry.
so. Was
We're the
Dave,
only two old ones.
was Dave already coming when you were on the board?
Dave was already
He
coming.
came after
Yeah,
you
he
started?
was. Oh yeah, Dave was already
Well,
coming
he
when
came-
we
maybe
did the
came
first
before me.
USDA grant.
Cause Candace was
He
here.
helped us with Candace.
Cause
was
Candace
here.
was here. He
He
told me
was-
Candace and, Joy.
Candace, Joy, me, Greg, and
Cause he remembered my, anyway, so we're done, right?
now,
oh,
they're ready for your signature.
I just put the pen away. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys gonna move that we
I will make a motion that we adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 401.
I was an aye, sorry. Forgot that in my mouth.
7:58.
So just as an update, I've been working on, looking at trucks and all that stuff. I'm gonna get some
What
prices
are
on some
we-